Hello everybody, welcome to Studio Access. Tonight we have a very special show. And the reason it's special is because I've known our guest for years. He's a very talented young man. He's a videographer, he's an illustrator, he's a musician, and what I didn't know until recently is that he's also a paranormal investigator. Won't you please join me in a warm welcome for Dan LeRoy. Dan, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it.
I'm glad you came.
Yeah, thank you.
What we're going to do tonight is we're going to talk about what you do in the paranormal investigations.
Okay.
Because there are a lot of opinions about it.
Oh, of course.
And I think I can start the conversation by something you told me, which is you're not hunting for anything specific.
Right.
What you do is you investigate things that can't be explained. Mm-hmm. And that's really all you know.
That's right.
And it's all you claim.
Exactly. Yeah.
Please tell us exactly what you do and the group with which you do it.
Sure. Well, I'm a lead investigator for Paranormal Research Society of New England, and that's run by John Zaffis. And a lot of people know his name that are interested in the paranormal. Basically what we do is we conduct investigations in homes where people are reporting paranormal activity. I mean, it could be everything from footsteps or shadows or things moving about the house or things like that, something that can't be explained. A lot of times people will call and they'll be afraid of what's in their home or in their business in some cases. So.
Okay, and I was going to ask that. How long do they let it go?
It depends on the person. Sometimes people want to tolerate it. You know, a lot of times if it's something that's not malevolent, it's not causing any harm to anybody, it's just an occasional bump or occasional footsteps, that kind of thing. Sometimes people are like, oh, no big deal. You know, it's you know, Freddy, my ghost, or whatever they want to call it. Whereas sometimes people are completely freaked out. They don't even want to stay in the house. So a lot of times those are the people that will call us or email us. And
they let it get to that point?
Sure.
They don't want to stay in the house anymore?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Okay. And
it's a little disturbing that they would... Is it denial? Is it...
I think that sometimes it's people's sensitivity. You know, some people will try and brush it off, or others are like, oh my God, I saw that and there's no way I'm going back in there, kind of thing. Do
you find that some people are more receptive than others?
Yes. Definitely. Okay. Yep, for sure.
Okay. So that's part of the explanation.
It's part of the explanation, yeah.
Is the house ever split?
Yeah. Okay. Sometimes activity will be around one person and other people won't experience it, you know, or, you know, two people in the house and like sometimes it'll be the mom and the children will experience stuff, but the father won't experience anything, or vice versa. Okay. Yep. So it all depends.
The group that you work with. Tell me a little about that.
Well, it was established by John Zaffis, like I mentioned, and you know, John is well known. He's a demonologist, and he's well known for working with demonic type cases. And so a lot of times, you know, when we get cases in, they're of a more dark nature, unfortunately. And so, so that's the type of stuff we do. But I mean, you know, it's everything from soup to nuts as far as, you know, investigating, you know.
So simple to complex.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's a simple investigation?
A simple investigation is, you know, footsteps or a couple little minor things going on in the home. And then something like that, that's something that can be solved relatively quickly. And then whereas something like a demonic infestation of a home or someone who is possessed. I mean, there's cases like that where it's gotten that far. Okay,
start at the beginning and slowly.
Sure.
A simple investigation, and you said it can be solved easily. How is it solved?
Well, sometimes it can be solved. It can't always be solved.
Okay. So if somebody hears footsteps,
right,
or
right, someone hears voices or knocking or things like that. You know, a lot of the first thing that we try and do is to try and debunk everything. So if someone says, well, I hear knocking and the knocking happens, you know, at the same hour every night, well, I mean, we can try and find natural explanations for that. You know, do they have a heating system that turns on at that time? Do they have, you know, animals living in their attic that they don't know about, you know, stuff like that. You know, that's really kind of where we start, because we don't want to jump off and say, oh my God, it's a ghost. You know, I think, and a lot of times, unfortunately, I think some of the newer groups that investigate, that's kind of where they're not too seasoned. So a lot of times they're like, oh my God, it's a ghost, without really doing a proper investigation.
Is part of that just showmanship on their part?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess every industry has the...
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Exactly.
But you're more serious. You sound, from speaking with you, you sound a lot more serious about what you're doing.
I try and be very objective about it.
Right.
You know, I think that a lot of times when you're interviewing someone, a homeowner, that they will give you a lot of clues to what's going on. You know, I mean, that they're afraid of things, or they're paranoid, or, I mean, you know, don't forget too, a lot of times people could be on drugs. They could be literally be having hallucinations. You know, there's medical reasons why people could be seeing stuff that we have to go through all that.
Okay. So that's the debunking that you're talking about.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like finding an actual apparition. Is that the right word?
Right. Yep.
What percentage is there animals in the house versus, and I don't want to use the G word.
Right. Paranormal.
Right.
You know, I would say it's 50-50.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was actually, you know, honestly, I felt it was higher than I expected going in. But, you know, I try and keep an open mind with stuff. But, you know, a lot of the cases that we've been brought into were legitimate.
Okay. Paranormal. We hear it all the time.
Yeah.
What exactly does it mean? Can you break down the two words?
Yeah. So basically it means anything that is not normal, anything that's out of the ordinary, something that can't easily be explained.
Okay.
You know, and that's kind of where it falls into. But I mean, when you're thinking about paranormal, you could be talking about spirits, you could be talking about cryptozoological things like Bigfoot, you know, things like that. Everything kind of, paranormal is like an umbrella term.
All right, it's not unlike UFO, which people immediately think flying saucer, but it's not. It's just an identified object.
Exactly.
So, which is what, in a sense, it's what you go to investigate.
Right.
Unidentified objects.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
So you narrow everything down.
Right.
So back to my original question. If you go in and there's knocking or voices, what is the solution?
Well, I mean, the first part is to, once we've gone to the debunking phase, usually if we can't come up with a reasonable explanation for what's causing the noise or whatever it is, then we'll conduct an investigation where we're going to set up cameras, we're going to do EVPs, we're going to do EMF sweeps of the home and temperature, because a lot of times paranormal activity will center around either drops in temperature or electromagnetic fields. Okay. So we usually do like a baseline when we get to a home, just to kind of know where the house is, so that later on if there's activity and we're measuring EMF, we can see if there's a spike right before something happens.
Okay, can you tell us what those initials are, the EMF and the...
Electromagnetic field.
Okay.
Yeah, and then EVP is electronic voice phenomenon.
You've brought some equipment.
Yes.
And it actually relates to the EVP. And
it does. And, you know, well, I mean, some of this stuff is pretty old school, I guess, at this point. I mean, this is a EMF detector.
Okay.
And so it just basically, that's all it does, is it measures the ambient EMF in a room.
All right, can you use the actual words instead of the initials?
Sure.
Just so our viewers...
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it measures the...
Electromagnetic fields.
Okay, so explain that.
So basically anything that is electrical gives off electromagnetic fields. So like
energy.
Like energy,
okay.
Right. So if you put this next to your circuit box in your house, you're going to get a high reading because it's giving off a lot of energy. A lot of energy is going through that.
Okay.
If you put this next to a power cord, when it's energized, it's going to give off.
And if?
Well, the Earth also gives off electromagnetic fields.
Good point.
Right. So, you know, there's always some sort of a baseline in a house. It's never zero.
Okay.
You know, But usually what will happen is, and I've had this happen to me on several occasions, I've done a baseline of a property, and then right before some event happens, there's a huge spike in the electromagnetic field. Not always, but on more than one occasion for sure, I've witnessed that where we either had an object moving or a voice that we get recorded on tape, or an orb of some sort, some sort of a visual anomaly.
So all these things generate energy, or
manipulate it or generate it, yeah.
That piece of equipment is sensitive to.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
What else do we have?
I mean, we use standard video recorders, HD, night vision cameras.
And there's nothing special about those?
No, it's just infrared. You know, it has infrared night vision. I mean,
can you pick
most
up
cameras
things with that?
Yeah.
Okay. And you can see it while you're...
One of the clips that you have actually shows one of our investigators standing there. There's a light anomaly that happens right next to him. It kind of floats in and disappears, and immediately you can see him like look down, like something like moved on the floor near him.
Okay.
That caught his attention. So feel that that's like connected, like something, there was an energy source there that was moving near him that he couldn't see, but that the camera picked up. And then something physically moved near his foot, and then he looks down at it.
Okay.
So a lot of times what I think is cool about it is that we can connect, you know, either audio and the video, or an electromagnetic field and an audio event, something like that. Like they're usually tied in together somehow.
Okay. So it's not unlike having a physical presence.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. Exactly. One of the other things that we have is which is kind of cool, is a proximity sensor. And they come in all shapes and sizes. And basically what this does is, and I'll turn this on to demonstrate it, but you can hear as I get closer to the antenna.
Right. Can you hold it up and kind of show everybody?
Yeah.
So we can see. There we go.
I'm setting it off, but you can see that.
So if you bring your hand over far.
So bring your hand far away.
Yeah. Okay. So that you could set up somewhere, let it sit.
Right. So let's set it up, and a lot of times what we'll do is we'll ask if there is a spirit there to touch the antenna, touch the device. And sometimes it works. I mean, a few occasions it actually worked where we were not near it and it went off when we prompted it to do that. You know, it's just one extra thing. You know, a lot of times you could even leave it. People will say, "Oh, I hear footsteps on the stairs all the time." Well, that would be a perfect thing to put on the stairs. So if there's a spirit that's going up and down the stairs, happens to go by the antenna, it'll set it off.
Okay.
You know, just to give one more clue, one more piece of evidence that we can, you know, bring back. You know, so.
Okay. So all these things confirm what people are saying, or deny, but
it helps. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, there's never a definitive answer.
Well, what's the chance of you walking in and hearing the knocking? It's like when you bring your car to the mechanic and it doesn't act up. I mean, that kind of thing. So that's what this equipment is for.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
All
you know, if we can come back and find an EVP, you know, when we review the evidence, if there's an EVP on there that's giving it, you know, if we're asking a question like, for example, what is your name? Or give us a sign that you're here, you know, and there's an audio clip on there that we don't hear when we're recording it, but we hear it on playback later. That's EVP.
All right, and we have an example of that. We actually have.
Yes. I'll give you a couple.
3. So we have the first one where somebody whispers.
Yes, so this one, you can hear somebody's talking, and then it says, I think they're asking it to, you know, just kind of just prove that it's there.
Okay. You
know, and it comes across and it says Satan.
All right, so we're going to play that clip and we're going to listen.
Okay.
And then you can explain what you think.
Okay.
Don't go. Satan, it feels like cold against my arm.
What did we just hear?
So what we heard was an investigator talking. Basically, before this, we had some sort of an audio event in the room. We heard something that we couldn't explain.
Okay.
The investigator asked to, you know, just confirm that you're here. That, you know, just confirm, say something that, you know, to let us know that you're here. And then you hear Satan. which...
Why Satan, do you think?
I think that, you know, a lot of times, and I don't think it's Satan that's saying it, and I think that a lot of times, you know, if it's a spirit of some kind that's saying that, that's communicating, they're going to say whatever they want to say. I mean, they're, you know, if it's a person that's trying to communicate, they're just going to, you know, they have personalities too, you know.
Okay.
So anyway, so it comes across and says Satan. So we didn't hear that at the time we recorded it.
Okay.
So we hear that later. So we go back and we you know, listen, go through all the audio.
Right.
Like, oh my God, listen to that. You know.
Okay.
So, and it's pretty clear.
And you also have animals also.
Yes.
I guess.
Yes. So this was also a house that didn't have any animals in it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll hear what it is, and we'll talk about it.
Listen to that one.
Yeah.
Big Chief.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, like, you know, there wasn't a cat there.
Right.
I mean, we made sure. Obviously, we were there. We were recording this
Was there a
hours
litter
after
box?
we've been there. No litter box, no
okay.
cat.
Okay.
And me being allergic to cats, I would have known if it was there anyway.
There you go.
So, yeah, so that was pretty neat. And then you have a third one, too.
Right. And somebody, well,
So-
we're listening for,
We're listening for right at the end of the clip. It's asking, the lady's asking for it to, I think it says, can you let us know you're here, or something along those lines. And then at the end it says no.
okay, so let's listen to that.
Show yourself in the photo.
Yeah, I thought I just heard a, or maybe it was a cat. Meow.
Yeah. Okay, so you don't hear this
No.
while you're recording. And
No.
you're using you're just using a digital recorder.
Digital audio recorder.
Right.
I mean, and you know, I'm using a digital audio recorder. Some people use cassette recorders, mini cassette recorders.
Really?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
You know, in fact, one of our guys swore by his mini cassette recorder. That thing would pick up so many different EVPs. It was crazy.
And you were talking about something that Thomas Edison invented that you use?
Yes, the ghost box.
Okay. So you just
So-
used the G word.
Right. That is the G word. Well, it's
Okay.
the official name of it.
Is it? Oh, is that a brand name?
I don't know. I don't know if he patented it or not.
Okay.
But
What does this do?
long story short, basically, Thomas Edison, being interested in the paranormal, was working on developing ways to communicate with you know, the afterlife, basically. So
Okay.
he developed a device that scanned radio frequencies and would scan them at a very high rate without stopping. And that technology, you know, he had all that stuff that was basically, he never really implemented it, but he had all of the blueprints, everything else. Someone by the name of Frank Sumption years later gathered all these documents and tried to build it. He was like an electrical engineer, so he, you know, was really into this stuff and put together a ghost box
Okay.
and used it and became very famous for it. And would go to different places and he would try this ghost box. And basically the theory was that the sweeping of the radio frequencies would provide audio, a level of audio for a spirit to manipulate and be able to use to communicate. So, and we use a more of a newer version of it, but basically it's a radio that will scan the frequencies very quickly, and you can go back and actually, you know, you can take it and ask questions and see if it'll answer you.
So it's a form of conduit.
It's a form of communication. It's just one more tool.
Because we've just heard examples of somebody speaking that you can't explain.
Right.
And my first thought is, well, spirits don't have vocal cords. They don't have any physical ability to speak.
Yep.
So how do they do that? I understand now that if you've got, this is scanning, essentially looking for.
This is looking for audio.
Right.
Right. And what's interesting, they're two completely different things, because with an EVP, it's somehow getting recorded onto the device without you realizing it.
Okay.
And it's a phenomenon. And I don't think anyone has really figured out how or why that happens.
Okay.
So that's still kind of a mystery. With the ghost box, you know, you can actually hear it real time. So, and what's interesting too about that is that it'll scan, you know, you can hear the radio scanning frequency to frequency to frequency. It clicks. It goes. So when you go back and listen to it, if you hear a voice and the voice is spanning 15 different frequencies, well, hold on a minute, that's not a radio station. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So that's how that works. So, and a lot of times what's cool about that is if you're using that and you're asking questions, it's giving you a direct response. So it's not like you could listen to the radio and just ask questions and it's going to give you a direct response. Right. And you can also get like the same person comes back and gives you a second response to a question. So it's not like it's just random guy and then it's another random guy.
Okay.
You know?
All right.
So.
You and I were talking earlier, and I confess that I have never experienced.
Right.
And you said one time you weren't a believer either.
Right.
Tell us what convinced you. Tell us for the first time when you realized that, holy cow, this might be real.
Well, you know, I was always very interested in it since I was a kid. I mean, I used to watch Unsolved Mysteries of Robert Stack and you know, In Search of and all those shows.
Okay.
But, you know, it's like you take it with a grain of salt. Like, wow, that's really cool, but is that real?
Right.
You know what I mean? And so forever I was very skeptical about all that stuff until I wanted to be able to use my own equipment and record it for myself so I can know for sure that what I'm getting is not something that I'm manufacturing. You know what I mean? So my first investigation that I did, I got an incredible EVP. And I know for sure that it wasn't anybody in the room. There were 3 of us in the room, and I knew the voices of the other people that I was with. And there was a 4th voice that came through, and it blew my mind. Because I didn't expect it. Like I was like, well, maybe I'll get something on this case. But when I did, I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible.
Now, the stories that you were telling me about your first time and all, and obviously somebody allowed you to do that.
Right.
And I think that's great that you were able to go. And I can respect the attitude that I'm going to find out for myself what this is all about. Mm-hmm. Is this something anybody can do?
It is something that anybody can do.
Responsibly.
That's the key word.
Okay.
This is nothing that you should go start doing in your house. You know, it's something that can cause a lot of problems for you because when you start trying to communicate with something, you could be opening a doorway. And that's nothing you want to do in your own house or anybody else's, you know, if your family's house.
Okay, can you explain that, open a doorway?
Basically, it's the law of attraction. So basically, when you're trying to communicate with something, you're in essence asking it to come forward and you're asking it to, you know, communicate with you.
Okay.
Well, if you're in a place that's already, you know, has something going on, that's fine. But if you're in your home and you don't have anything going on, you're asking something to come in. And once you do that, that doesn't mean it's going to go away when you want it to go away. So you have to be very careful about, you know, doing that stuff. You really need to leave it to people that know what they're doing.
Okay. The word portal comes to mind. Is that real or isn't it? Is that just a movie thing?
Absolutely, yeah.
Really?
It is. And a lot of it comes from people using the Ouija board, messing with the Ouija board. And, you know, you're basically inviting spirit to come in by using that. And it's you using your energy to do that. So, you know, and people say, well, it's Milton Bradley, or, you know, how could that be? You know, they sell, you know, they have the girls version that's like pink and glows in the dark. I mean, it's not safe to use that in your house.
Okay. People have invited me to partake in the Ouija board seance, or whatever you want to call it, but for some reason, I just don't want to.
That's a good move.
I'm not afraid of it. Like, you know, I've never seen or anything. There's just something about it. I'm a firm believer in where there's smoke, there's fire.
Right.
Now, you can argue all day whether or not there are spirits among us. Mm-hmm. But the one thing that I know, I've never seen one, I've never heard one, but what I do know is that since the beginning of recorded time, people have talked about spirits.
Absolutely.
So there's got to be something to it. I have another friend who, like you, is normal. She is not crazy. She's not anything but just a very normal person, and she sees ghosts.
Yeah.
And I have to believe her. I can't.
Right.
I don't want to. As a matter of fact, she came to my house and we were talking about it, and I had to tell her, please don't put ghosts in my house.
Right.
Just don't, if you see one, I don't want to know. I
exactly.
just don't want to know.
You don't.
All right, with that, Dan, we're going to say good night.
Thank you so much,
I certainly appreciate you coming.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
This has really been very interesting.
Yeah, thank you so much.
This
was awesome.
That we don't, a lot of us don't see face to face.
No.
And I'm still hope that you're going to drag me along.
I will. I will do that.
Curious.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
I'll bring a camera.
Yes, please.
And we'll do
yeah,
that.
That'll be fun.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Sounds good, Dave. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. This has been Studio Access. You can watch this show and many other shows on our website here at Cheshire Public Access. It's patv15.com. Once again, thanks for joining us. Good night.